we welcome in our dear friend, dear close, longtime personal friend, Jill Adge, host of the Sacramento Kings podcast on the Ethos Network. Jilly, you are the front office and coaching guru. Like, reporters reach out to you like, Jill, could you tell us about the Luke Locks, Luke Louts? Look, tell us about these guys. First of all, let's start with this. Mike Brown. Are you in on the Mike Brown hire? Are you like,
No, I was in on it. I mean, if you listen to the podcast, I mean, I kind of lean more towards the younger ones, but I will say how when you look at Jordy Fernandez, for everyone that wanted the younger guy, like, you got him as an associate and you have Mike as a head coach, where we were kind of thinking the opposite, that you might get the young head coach and the older assistant. It just swapped. So, I mean, either way, it's whoever is here, it's not going to be one person that turns this thing around. So I think they got a highly qualified guy, a well-respected guy. Now it's up to the front office to give them the tools, right? Who we say this for every coach that comes in. Yes, you can look at strengths and weaknesses, but when you're looking at the West rosters, like, the top end talent isn't there, right? And then the bench talent isn't necessarily there. So they have to find a coach and then personnel together that can mix it all, as one. And so that's there's only been one coach that's been able to do that in the Sacramento era. So, I mean, you wouldn't think it would be that hard since everybody else, manages to figure out how to do it. Right. But as I told KC before, when you have 17 draft picks and like 4 of them are still in the league, that's a problem for a small market team. I mean, outside the coaches or anything else, you need players that can actually last in the league. So when you guys were talking about Keegan Murray, to me, I understand the safe thing, but to me, it's more so this guy's going to be around. He's not going to be out in 3 years, theoretically. Like, to me, that's more so when people mean safe in Sacramento, that it's, oh, this guy will actually last their rookie contract and not, be overseas now.
Right. No, I completely understand that. Mike Brown, and I know you've done a ton of research on him leading up to, like, him as a candidate and eventually getting selected. When you were looking through all the things that you were looking through, was there anything in there about his growth since the last time he was a head coach, and maybe some of the things he's learned at Golden State and some of the philosophies and the way to go about offense and defense that maybe he was looking to improve upon if he got another opportunity, which now he has with the Sacramento Kings?
Yeah, I'll say one thing that doesn't get talked about is between his stint in that last Cleveland, year and then going to the Warriors, he wasn't officially a part of the Spurs staff, but Greg Popovich had him around. Like, he was like a consultant there. And he thought about stopping coaching. And it was Steve Kerr that reached out to Popovich and said, hey, I'm thinking about Mike Brown. Luke Walton's gone. I need, another lead assistant. What do you think? And Popovich said you would be, stupid not to, essentially, in so many words, to hire this guy. And so Popovich went to Mike Brown and said, if Steve Kerr calls you, like, you take this and you go, you deserve to be in this game. Go learn what you have to, go. I don't want to say learn, go grow, right? Go grow yourself, but you deserve to be here like anybody else. And I think we've seen that with the Warriors, right? Like, we've heard that he had parts of offense. We've heard that he had part of, their defense, especially this season. And, he worked with the analytics staff and had that whole number board for the whole Warriors team. And so everybody was designated a defensive number, and you knew every day if your number was rising, slipping, and the rest of the team knew. So there was some kind of accountability there in the sense that, you were getting called out if you were not doing your job. And so I think being on a staff just of the guys that he was around in Golden State, I don't know how you wouldn't, not grow. You see someone like Luke Louts, who said that as soon as he got that video intern job with the Warriors, Mike Brown took him under his wing. Like we've heard that in Cleveland with Jordy Fernandez, and we now hear this with Luke, that he doesn't just kind of walk the walk as a coach. Very much what we liked about some of these younger guys, they believe in growing their own and developing internally. And so he did those kind of things with staff there. And so, I mean, it's the Warriors. They have a crazy amount of talent, but you can say he's maximized the talent. So, I mean, to me, he's done exactly what you could ask him to do. Now coming to Sacramento, it's hard to know what any one philosophy, that he's going to do. But it very much seems like, depending on the staff or the personnel he has, he believes in maximizing that and not it. He's got like what did they say? Like a 200 play, playbook. It almost seems like he has something for everything. So it's not like I have to pinhole you to this. And if it doesn't work, I don't care. We're going to keep doing it. Like I can mix and match to find what works best for the group that I'm working with at that particular time.
You mentioned, Joe, Jordy Fernandez, who I want to learn a little bit more about, but we've always been, and I think this goes back to Cleveland. I don't even think this is wrong. Like Mike Brown is a defensive guy. Like he's kind of a defensive first type guy. But he is hiring Jay Triano, who we've heard is an offensive first guy. Like what does Jay bring in here to the staff with Mike Brown?
So for Jay Triano, so we talked about Mike probably having like an head coach on staff. And we weren't sure who it was going to be. Well, that's Jay. A lot of people like to point to, obviously, he was an assistant in Toronto for a long time before he was put in charge of that group. He was an associate in Phoenix before he was the interim there. So he kind of had that kind of role of being the guy that kind of like an Alvin Gentry where you go up. But he was the head coach for the Canadian national team. And how that worked out was because of his relationship with Steve Nash. Steve Nash was like the GM essentially of the Canadian national team. And Jay actually recruited Steve when Steve was a college head coach. And so he had experience back then as well. He told Steve to not go to his school, but to go somewhere else because he knew that he would go succeed everywhere else. And Steve Nash said he never forgot that. Like that showed me who he was. He wasn't selling him, fake promises and all this stuff. It was, no, I love you, but I know you will go do something better over there. And so he worked his way through in the NBA. And then James Borrego, as a first-time head coach, said, I'm going to need someone, since I've never been a head coach before.
There she is. There's Gracie. We knew Gracie would jump in.
Has head coaching experience. And
Gracie normally doesn't start barking till Jill mentions Buddy Hield. Once Jill mentions Buddy Hield, then Gracie goes at it. You can listen to old episodes of our podcast together, and the second Jill brings up Buddy Hield, like the dog loses it.
I wonder
not a Buddy Hield fan.
Well, maybe it's in support of Buddy Hield.
I don't think so. No. Never got that impression.
So he hired someone who had head coaching experience, and James said that he relied on him a lot, like in everything. He was a sounding board, that he would do. And something interesting about Jay is he was a longtime assistant of Terry Stotts in Portland. And there is, if you've listened to my podcast before, I've mentioned another podcast called Basketball Immersion, and YouTube has these, hour-long videos of coaches talking. Well, he mentions how he got with the founder of Cleaning the Glass. I really like that site. I know a lot of other people use it. He got with the founder there, and they brought analytics, how to pair offense and analytics to Portland's offense. During the pandemic, he got with Ben again and talked with how can I do that with the Hornets. Hornets jumped from like a 20 offense to an 8 this season. Again, they had like really good 3-point shooting.
They were exciting.
They were top 10 in 3-point shooting and top 10 in, not turning over the ball. So they did smart things on offense. And again, it's going to rely on your players. Kings haven't really been that great of a 3-point shooting team. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can bring here. But he's very much a guy that says he constantly tries to get better. And he used a lot of the pandemic time to try and, refine his own skills. And so I like that as a coach, right? That he's always trying to get better. That's something said about Jordi Fernandez as well. Not a lot of people know that when Jordi Fernandez moved over to Mike Malone's staff in Denver, he was a front of bench guy, right? When they hired David Adelman to run the offense, it moved Jordi to behind the bench. So a lot of people would look at like, pow, it's a demotion, I'm going to go somewhere else. Mike Malone said he didn't do any of that, put his head down, did the work. He said he probably had the best coaching season that he's seen that him had. And then that summer, Mike put him in charge of the summer league team. And almost like as a reward, like you did your job, you did what you were supposed to do. He works great with the young players, right? Like development was his background. But you're just seeing guys like, no matter the situation, they do their job. He didn't go, Game of Thrones style on Mike Malone for hiring someone else and moving him back. Like these guys continue to do their job. And there's something to be said when he was in Cleveland, he survived 5 head coaches, 3 general managers, and 7 seasons. That should tell you what people think about Jordi Fernandez.
Wow.
Yeah.
That regardless of the person that came, like the people that came in, he stayed. Like people thought that much about what he was doing.
Yeah, for sure. You're listening to ESPN 1320, KIFM West Sacramento, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, an Odyssey station, and driven by Lasher's Elk Grove Dodge. I'm Kenny Caraway, Damian Barling in the house, Jill Adge in the house, coaching and draft guru, particularly second round of the draft guru. Jill, she really find them second round steals out there. She's on.
This place never does. This place never does. One day we will find a second round pick that will last.
So I wanted to shift to the draft a little bit. We all know, F4, we want a heavy hitter, and even if we can get into back into the first round, I don't know if it'd be lottery, but 16, 17, 18, something like that, that would be great as well. Second round, like you mentioned, they continue to miss year and year on second round picks. And I want to get your take on who you like in the second round, but I want to throw one at you real quick and let me know what you think. A guy who has fallen, Jay-Z said it one time, you fell from top 10 and not mention at all. That's what this young man has done on a lot of draft boards, but I'm not ready to throw him out just yet. Patrick Baldwin Jr. Is, in some respects, he is a second round guy. And if the Kings were able to get him in the second round, a guy who was at one point looked at as a top 5 prospect coming out of high school, I'd roll the dice. I'd roll the dice in the second round on Patrick Baldwin.
Yeah, and he's one where we, like you mentioned, we're kind of like Zaire Williams, right? Like to me, I think better prospect there. But in that same sense where they were top 5 guys, had, you could say, the freshman season that struggled, even though Williams was more due to like off, the court stuff with pandemic and losing family members and things like that. But Baldwin, he was a kid, right? Duke offered him a scholarship his sophomore year, youngest that Duke's ever offered anybody. And he went to go play for his dad. He had some injuries last year. I don't know. I know people are talking about it now. He didn't test well. Okay. But in the second round, does he have the intangibles that you would look for? Like, can you make him into something of like that top 5 prospect that he was? Can you bring that back? Well, you just hired a bunch of developmental guys on your staff. So to me, if these guys can't develop someone, then I would be more surprised than not. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's fickle, right? Like it's depending on who likes you any given day. If someone prefers metrics, if someone prefers the IQ of the game, if someone prefers just raw upside, it's depending on who you talk to. People prefer different things, and for that reason, they rank guys differently. And so I kind of like looking at big boards rather than rankings too, and seeing where guys kind of have guys fall on big boards rather than where they a perceived fit of where someone might be going. Because a lot of times you see guys who are projected, top 10 on a big board, but they're going 15 maybe because of a fit with somewhere else. And so I do think
this is
something
cute
to think about.
We're talking about second round picks. This is all cute. That's fine. Jill, who do you want it for? Join in our stress.
I've already said this, that it's still a month away. Like,
nope, need it now.
I do not have a favorite. I don't. I've made that very clear that I don't, that I'm still.
Who are you leaning towards? Who has got the Jill Adge eye? Who are you? You just giving that little look to, like, might be the one right there. Who is it? You've got someone I know. You've got a big board. Who is it?
I mean, I still think Jaden Ivey is the best player available. I think that. Whether the Kings go that, I don't know. But his story to me is awesome. Like, his mom played pregnant with him her whole rookie season in the WNBA. Like, this,
he was literally playing basketball for any of these kids.
I mean, he's been on a basketball court, like, as he was growing physically with his mom. And then, like, right after that, it was, I'm going to learn from the WNBA greats and some of the best of women's college basketball at Notre Dame with his mom as an assistant coach and now the head coach. Like, I think there is something to be said for coaches' kids, but he also has the crazy athletic, upside. Yeah. My biggest worry of what the Kings will do is worry too much about what they have on this roster, like they have previously, and not just take the best player. Like, you're on a 16-year drought. To me, you can't be saying, oh, well, I just don't need another one of these. Like, if you think that he's better than anyone you have on your team currently, you take him. And you're, as a GM, figure it out. That's your job. But you take the best player available and you work it out. Like, we are not good to keep saying, oh, we got to pass on the best player available because they might not work with someone in their 7th year with us now. Like, at some point you have to adapt and change. So
is there any free agents that you would love to see come to Sacramento this summer for them to, assuming, let's just go with Jaden Ivey. Let's say they take Jaden Ivey. What
these aren't big names by any means. But some stretch bigs that I would like to see them look at, Mo Bamba and like a Chris Boucher, who can stretch the floor, shoot the three, but also give some shot blocking.
I like Chris Boucher.
They're not, like the flashy names, but
I feel like he eviscerated the Kings a couple of times.
He destroyed the Kings.
I think a
number of different times.
I think there's probably a long list of people who.
But I think those are guys you could probably get on friendly deals. I mean, they're restricted free agents. And I think they'll have other suitors, but defense and threes. This team doesn't have.
I'm with James Ham on this one. I'm all in on the Martin twins. I need one or both of those guys here in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Give me the Martin twins.
Yeah. And back to your point of the second round, can we try and draft a wing? Can we try and draft a wing and develop them? Like, I know we have this huge aversion to wings too, but if you're not going to do it in the first, there are lots of wings in this draft. Yeah. So
that's Jill Adge. She hosts the Sacramento Kings podcast on the Ethos Podcast Network. Jilly, you are the absolute best. Thanks for joining us. Give Gracie our love. Tell Gracie we're sorry her time on the show got cut short today.
Say we're sorry for bringing up Buddy Hield.
Yeah, tell Gracie we love her. Thanks, Jilly. That's Jill Adge.